Thank you very much for tuning in today into the new edition of the HbbTV Webinar series. We're live, which means that you can post your questions anytime during the presentations, and we'll check them and find out more about your inquiries in the last 15 minutes of this webinar. We have 257 people who have registered today to watch this live. So it's really great to see that much interest in the HbbTV OpApp. That's what we're talking about today. The OpApp as a virtual set-top box, less work and more power than you think. We have a great lineup of presenters today, starting with Teun van der Veen, Senior Consultant of TNO, Rachel Mischke, Product Consultant PO Smart TV at Zattoo, also from Zattoo, Pavel Verkhovskyi, Engineering Director, and we also have Martin Faehnrich, Manager Standardization at Panasonic Business Support Europe. I said already, please don't forget to submit your questions. That's important, and do submit them using the little box you can see in the corner of your screen, and make sure whenever something comes into your head, come up with the questions straight away, because otherwise we have them all at the same time at the end, and we will keep to the 60-minute format. So we want to make sure we can respond to all your feedback and questions you have. As usual, the disclaimer first. The presentation represents the views of the presenter and the companies he or she represents, not necessarily the views of the HbbTV Association. Thank you once again, and now over to Teun for the first presentation.
Trying now to find the correct screen.
Yeah, I can see something.
Yep.
Do you see
Lots
the full
of screens? Yes.
Okay, the presentation mode screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. In the rehearsal, I saw the options, but now I didn't. So it's hard for me to see what everybody is seeing. So if something goes wrong, please let me know. Thank you, Jörn, for this opportunity, and thanks HbbTV for this opportunity to present on operator applications in this webinar. It seems that my slide is stuck. I don't know what's happening. Yes, you should see something moving. Apologies for the technology here. My name is Teun van der Veen. I'm a senior consultant at TNO, and together with my friends from Zattoo and Panasonic, I will give an update on HbbTV operator applications, and I will, in the next 10 minutes, give a short introduction of the standard. So I'm from TNO, and just for those of you who do not know TNO, TNO is a Dutch research and technology organization, and we develop smart solutions together with and for our clients. And yeah, our main job is knowledge development and application, as you can see in this figure. And that's also what we do in the unit ICT and the media networking team at TNO. And operator applications is actually a nice example of how we develop new technology in international context, and together with many partners and clients in the telecom and media sector, and also using, in this case, our position in HbbTV to create a new standard. So the new standard, well, maybe 2 years old already, the HbbTV operator standard, that's the topic of today, and I would like to give an update and an introduction to that. I think it's a relevant topic, as I saw last week in a Digital TV Europe a webinar on their industry survey. It was said that TV as an app has a strong appeal, so I think a good timing for this webinar. I'll tell first a little bit on HbbTV and standards before I dive into the operator apps from standard perspectives. And I give a little bit of overview of consequences for the different stakeholders and what's happening in the ecosystem before I hand over to Rachel and Pavel for the actual implementation of operator. So talking about standards, first in general, it's good to realize, as I see it, standards are really essential in a complex ecosystem such as the TV ecosystem. It's really essential to enable multi-party ecosystems to reach the possibility of to reach scalability and reach of solutions and provide freedom of choice. And like in HbbTV, standards improve collaboration between parties that on the market are competitors with each other sometimes. Take a look at, for example, the different TV manufacturers all represented in HbbTV. And that helps establish a common ground for technical solutions and ultimately innovation in products. And for companies and consumers, in the end, it means lower cost, lower complexity. So standards are really crucial, for example, for operators. And operators are an important stakeholder in today's topic. So looking at HbbTV, many of you will know the core specification about and the red button functionality, for instance. But HbbTV has developed over the last 10 years much more standards, recently, for example, on targeted advertising. And therefore, it's good to realize that operator applications are really something different than regular HbbTV applications. So that's already an important takeaway. Okay, operator applications. You can see that as a standard for smart TV app integration. It's really designed to deliver a branded operator experience to the TV set. And it does it by improving a user experience compared to regular apps by offering deeper integration and more functionality than you would have with a normal app maybe. So it offers attractive features, some of which described in the schematical overview that you see on the slide. With that features, the operator app allows operators to take control of the TV user interface, or at least part of it. So how do operator apps work then? Well, the standard describes functionality that's actually virtual set-top box functionality. And it improves the user experience, and it also allows an operator branded user experience. So it starts with the discovery and installation of the application. So when a consumer buys a new TV set, it turns it on. The TV automatically is able to find actually the operator app and make the operator brand part of the installation flow. So when it is installed, the application, consumers can then easily access the app and easily navigate content in the app. And for example, noteworthy is the app as a source behavior with virtual HDMI input, so you can to prevent getting lost in an ocean of apps. Quoting a webinar last week, people can easily find the operator application, and of course using relevant keys to navigate the content such as the channel up-down keys and a home key, for instance. Being a standard means that it's in principle also compatible with all TV platforms, so that but note that you still have to have a bilateral agreement with between operators and TV manufacturers. So it's working with all TV sets in principle, and it has that virtual HDMI input. So together that makes the virtual set-top box functionality. So when I explained this to operators, I got the question, well, why not call this HbbTV operator tier? Well, that may be an interesting idea, maybe for next releases of the operator app. And talking about next releases of the operator app, there is a second version now in the pipeline. It's to be published maybe later this year, or at least after the test assertions have been developed for the standard. Version 2 describes new features. For example, a CAM module supports to distribute OpApps via smart cards, parental controls, and also it contains an IPTV operator profile that aims to simplify the conversation between operators and TV manufacturers. Further improvements that HbbTV has done is it has added tests and improved OpApp tests to the HbbTV test suite and fixed bugs that resulted from actual implementations of the operator apps. So version 2 is now a stable draft awaiting this test assertion process. Then if I look at the different stakeholders in the field of operator apps, I start with consumers. For them, it's really, it offers a lot of ease of use, one remote, easy sign-on and access to content, less hassle with boxes and cables, and ultimately maybe even a lower energy bill due to that. For TV manufacturers, new business models, joint marketing possibilities, and also if everybody uses this standard, it makes it easier to deal with many TV operators. I think in Europe alone there are maybe hundreds. I haven't counted them, but there are a lot. For TV operators, it's really offers a uniform branded experience across a variety of devices. Of course, if you don't have to deliver a set-top box to all your customers or for all TV sets, it's a reduction in capex. And in that sense, it's a new strategic option for operators. And for HbbTV, I think it strengthens the ecosystem, maybe opening up new markets, and also important that it can coexist and OpApp with regular HbbTV applications. So then looking at what's happening in the outside world and how is the ecosystem developing? Well, we see, at least based on public sources, that the first TV manufacturers have already implemented operator apps, and also for different operators. Fortunately today we have Panasonic and Zattoo both on this webinar, so they can explain that firsthand. And also HbbTV itself is offering support to the ecosystem, not only by having the standard, but by providing supporting materials such as the white paper that is mentioned here, that is available for download. I think I've mentioned the most important part now of my introduction, so it's already time for me to wrap up. So a good to take away is that for me, the operator apps is really the only open standard for smart TV apps, and as such offers a strategic option because it's really a virtual set-top box with a lot of attractive features, and as we saw, benefits for the different stakeholders in the ecosystem. And the standard is alive, and the next version is in the pipeline. So this was the introduction, and if you now want to know what it means in practice and how difficult or how easy it is to implement, I would like to hand over to Rachel and Pavel to explain that firsthand. So thanks, and if you have any questions, please post them in the chat.
Well, thanks, Teun. That was very insightful, and I think we can add to that introduction with telling everyone how we actually built that operator app. For that context, you would have to know that Zattoo already had what we call an OTT app, so a regular TV app for the Panasonic TVs that would be available in the app section of the TV. And we will tell you a little bit about how we turned this OTT app, into an operator app. And this is the specific example from Zattoo. Other people might do that differently, but we have, I think, a good overview of what you need to do and what the workload would be to turn your OTT app into an operator app. So I think at this point, we should, again, I know that Teun has already explained a couple of things, but look at what is an operator app, because there have been a few misunderstandings about what it actually is. So in our case, it's an OTT app that is wrapped into what Pavel will explain, and that then makes it operating the TV. This is how I like to explain it. So we as Zattoo are taking over the TV experience of the TV. But to see how we got there and why it's a good idea, I think we should look at the setups that other operators might have. So usually the set-top box is still pretty popular because you can send it out to your customers and have a branded experience. But it has some downsides, unfortunately. So it is an extra device in your home. It's an extra remote control that differs from your TV. It's extra cables. It's an extra device UI. So like the settings might be different from or definitely different from what your TV does. But it also comes with a lot of advantages. So you can utilize the full remote control because it's part basically of that hardware setup. It's always on, so you just switch it on and there's your TV, just like you would use it or would have used it back in the days. It has the capability to offer you HbbTV on top of that. So on top of the broadcast streams that you can use extra services. And actually it melds the TV experience with the device. So when you think of your TV at home, you might not think of your TV set, but more often as this box that holds your TV as a user, of course. But if you don't want to be tied to hardware that you have to ship, which is expensive, everyone who has ever done that knows that, and it has a lot of processes that are involved in that, well, you would be looking to actually smart TV apps, because you can just publish them on the TVs. But also there are downsides. So the user would have to find the app, know it's there on that device, download it. He has to open it every time. You know that from your Netflix app. So every time you want to look something up on Netflix, you need to open it. And you can only use a subset of the remote control buttons. Some are reserved for the TV experience, which is still differing from any app experience. But in the end, you got no extra cables. It's only the one device in your living room. So how does that now bring us to the operator app? Well, basically, we meld all the good things of both into one experience. So for the operator app, we only have the app then set on the TV source input, just like you would have your HDMI input when the box is connected, and the app would live on that input on your TV via the source. You can have more of the remote control buttons utilized for that TV. It is always on, so if you switch it off and switch it on again, in our case, the Zattoo app would still be there. You don't have to open it up again. In general, HbbTV is possible in that setup. We haven't built that in yet, but we are eager to do that in the future. And we have no extra cables in that setup, and the experience is still melted with the TV device. So I don't need anything extra. And we think that's a very, very good approach for delivering an experience and also having the advantage of actually controlling more of the hardware without shipping it. So when we look at that, I know that also Teun, oh, the video can't be loaded. Now that's fun. I was just showing you I was about to show you the video of the startup experience, which you would have been amazed by, because it's only 1 minute and 14 seconds to go through the whole process. Setting up, I will just rephrase it. So you will be, as a user, you're setting up unpack your TV, you put it on wherever you want it in your living room, and then you go through the setup, setting up the Wi-Fi and your source, in this case the IPTV, which is the screen that Teun showed you earlier, and then you would just agree to the terms and conditions, and then actually at the end of this process, the app would then immediately start and would be linked to one of the the virtual HDMI inputs on your TV. So that's a pretty quick setup, depending on how long your Wi-Fi password at home is. But in general, that's pretty easy, and Panasonic has done an awesome job on it to take you through the process. So then let's look at the implementation that we actually did at Zattoo. So based on this existing TV app, we had kind of a head start because we don't need to build everything from scratch. But there's one thing that you need to do in preparation, and this is basically what Teun mentioned earlier when he said the TV finds the app. For this, you would need an ID that you can get from the DVB services. It's just an organization ID that would help in the communication with the TV to identify that this is you sending the operator app to the TV. So that's basically everything you need to set up before, ideally, you start the real implementation. And on that note, I want to hand over to Pavel, who will now take us through the steps of implementation.
Thank you, Rachel. So give me a second to share my screen. Yeah, can you someone make me a moderator, because I don't see controls at the moment to share the screen. Okay, so now you should see my screen.
Yes.
So first of all, I have a backup of the video Rachel were not able to share, and looking at the timeline, it looks like we still have 1 minute to go through the process. So Rachel, you may comment on this video now. So you can see that it's the setup process where user is prompted to configure first the network settings, and now you're gonna see my Wi-Fi password at home, but hopefully no one gonna connect and use it. Once this is done and TV is connected to the network, they're gonna be initiated a discovery process, so where we can set the input for our TV. In this case, it's HbbTV. Now it's discovery process. It finds the Zattoo app, and once you press on the install, that just takes a couple of seconds. This is the step where you need to agree on terms and conditions. And once this is done, there is another similar screen where you need to agree on all the usages. And once this is done, so that brings us to the end of the process, and this is how Zattoo app starts. So it's the whole video took us from initial setup to launching Zattoo app in less than 2 minutes. So it's actually 1 minute 15 seconds. And now
Thank you for that.
Yeah. And now I would like to walk you and explain under the hood what effort did we make to turn our existing OTT app into an operator app. But let's start first with preconditions. So in order to be efficient in the development, we would recommend, based on our personal experience, to get a specific TeamWave firmware from Panasonic, the development version. Together with that, we would recommend ask Panasonic for reference application, which is going to serve you as an example and going to save a lot of time. And of course, downloading standards and available API documentation also helps a lot. And now let's look at every specific to operator app feature and discuss what it costs to implement and what needs to be done. So let's start first with the app start experience, which is probably the most noticeable difference to regular smart TV apps. So here you can see that I just press on power on button on my remote control. In a few seconds, I tune directly into live streaming, which makes it's really amazing user experience. Customers don't need to spend time on going to the app portal, searching for the app they would like to start and starting it. As easy as pressing one button to tune into the live streaming. So this is also probably the most complex to achieve in terms of implementation. What we had to do is to, first of all, we need to create a packaged version of the application. And this is really easy to do if just follow the reference implementation example. Once the package is created with all basic assets like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, there is a requirement to implement a loader UI. So while TV is booting, you have a variety of options. You can do an animated boot, loading UI, or it could be static, it doesn't matter, but at least to give some user feedback. Then during that phase, we also initialize some TV APIs. This is again can be done based on the reference example. The next steps are not required for development purpose, but they are required for production-ready application. You would need to create a specific file, XML AIT file, which is going to contain some application metadata like version, name, ID, etc. Then production package should be encrypted and hosted via HTTPS protocol, and the URL should be shared with Panasonic so they can build into this firmware, TV firmware, and that the TV can discover such apps. The next feature is a home feed, which is not specifically bound to the operator app, but still we believe this is a nice improvement for the user experience, and together with operator app project, we enriched our app with a set of shortcuts. You can see if you press on the home button on the remote control and then select as a tool app icon, you will see a nice shortcuts into various sections in there. In this video, in the background of my slide, you can see that I am selecting recordings, and just by pressing it, I'm redirected directly to recordings section of the Zattoo application. So in order to do this, you have to create a static or dynamic JSON file. Then it should be hosted. The URL should be shared with Panasonic team. And then inside your app, you need to add specific event handlers where you're going to decide what to do whenever certain deep link is requested from the home screen. The next feature, which was already mentioned by Rachel, is that operator app can utilize more buttons on the remote controls. And for our case, we are able to provide our customers with experience, like Zattoo experience when customer presses on the guide button, like on this example. So instead of showing a native TV UI, you can see that we display as a Zattoo HbbTV guide. Then if I press program info button, I'm gonna land directly on the program details page. Together with that, there are a couple of more buttons available for operator app. It's a recording button, which then gives possibility to customer in the context of Zattoo app schedule or manage recording from their list. And together with that, there is a possibility to provide subtitles button to the application. To do this, you would need to, during the boot of application, request support for additional keys via a specific API, which you can find both in documentation or in a reference example. And then in your application code, you will need to create an event listeners and provide necessary functionality whenever you receive like such events, how to handle them and where to redirect your customer. Then operator app provides a better integration. It blends nicely experience of native TV UI directly to the application UI. In this context, you can see that we are able to link TV UI settings directly to the app settings of Zattoo. And in order to achieve such integration, it's simply as adding a couple of event listeners, and then you would need to make sure that your settings UI is available for both authenticated and anonymous users. Another specific to operator app feature is handling of offline mode, and this because the package lives directly on TV, and therefore we need to handle cases when there is no network connectivity. And in order to do this, there are multiple ways how you can check for network connectivity, and depending on the network status, you would need to provide some meaningful message to your customers that the device is offline and can't reach the internet at the moment. And another aspect is that we should still give possibility users to delete app if they are not satisfied with the experience. And in order to do this, you would probably need to extend your application settings with additional option to uninstall the application. This can be done directly from application settings or from TV UI settings. And in order to do this, we extended our app UI settings with additional option. Together with that, we implemented a method to clean up all user-specific data, and this can be found again in the referencing example of application. And if you need to do an initialize uninstall process based on the TV settings, API provides a specific event listener for that, which then needs to be added to the application. And last but not least, a nice addition to customer experience is possibility to open HbbTV applications. So in these examples, you can see that while watching CDF stream, if I press on the red button on the remote control, I can launch HbbTV application from ZDF and have access to MediaTek library. So this one is not in production yet for Zattoo app. We did a proof of concept, and currently it's in our roadmap to launch it for the end users. And in order to do this, you would need to provide an additional event listener to the red button and map channel ID in your application to a specific HbbTV app URL, which should be open whenever customer presses the red button. And together with that, you can then link it with a specific API to create or close HbbTV apps, which again can be found in the reference implementation example. And now for the last slide, I'm going to hand over back to Rachel. Thank you.
Yeah, I was asked if could you put up the slide again? Sorry, or should I do that? Well,
I lost the permissions.
That's all. It's all good. I'll just narrate at this point. So, do you actually see me now? You should, right? Okay, great. So the question was, hey, what information can you share on how well this app, or what difficulties are there with the app? So in general, there's not much to share from our side in numbers. It's just that for the 2020 models and up, this is available. So you still, as an operator, have the chance to do either your OTT app or an operator app on these devices. And when we were looking at the opportunities on the Panasonic device, we said the best Zattoo experience that we can have on a Panasonic TV is definitely the operator app. So there's no choice for our users to select the regular OTT app on that devices or the operator app. The only app available on those TVs is the operator app. And if you don't install it during the setup process, you can then go into the app section and do it there at a later point. But this is the only thing we offer. So we cannot actually share numbers, because basically we can say that because I actually asked our customer service, is there any feedback from our users on the app, any issues, anything? And they said no. They have a few people saying that they like it and that they're happy that it's available on these newer Panasonic TVs, but there are no complaints or requests to change anything for these for the operator app on the Panasonic. This far I can share things. And with that being said, this wouldn't be possible without Panasonic. So Martin, why don't you take it away?
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Yeah, that was already really great stuff, I must say. And now I'm about to share also my screen, which is hopefully visible now. I'm not really sure about that.
Yes, we can see your screen. Don't worry.
Ah, okay. Now I can do. Then I will try. Oops.
We need the presentation again.
Yeah, that's true. So now I should be able to share.
Yeah, there it is.
Perfect. Okay, Good. So just let me move this away from here. Too many screens. Okay, so let's start. Now we've heard a lot already on HbbTV on this topic. We heard about the standards. We heard about how to develop an app, make it available on the TV, and now, yeah. So from my side, from the manufacturer point of view, means I would like to explain you a bit all this stuff, how this is getting on the TV and so on. We have heard it a few times. I would like to stress this topic again. HbbTV operator application. Why should an operator do an OpApp? We've heard just from Pavel's and from Rachel's presentation that this is quite easy thing. Just to explain this a bit more, OpApp, well, there are certain benefits. So one of the biggest benefits is really some kind of branding, because an OpApp really feels like a set-top box, like a virtual set-top box. This means it's a resident application. When you switch on the TV, it's there, it's already there, it's in the flash of the TV, so it's not downloaded from the internet at first. So it really became part of the TV. It's visibility, of course, because all the time you switch on the TV, yeah, your operator app is also starting. This means you have high visibility, much more than with a normal app that you would need to launch. So consumers would need to remember, oh yes, I have an app from a certain vendor. No, not necessarily with OpApp. Resident application, I already mentioned, it's stored in the flash, it launches at startup. It's an instance service launch then, of course, because of the app at launch at startup. It's easy to upgrade because it's not hardware, it's just software. So when you would like to add additional features, or you would like to maintain your software, you don't need to hope that all your hardware devices are then really reached in the market as an operator. So it's very easy to upgrade. It's very flexible, no additional hardware. Also, there's no hardware business required. Yeah, it really feels like a part of the TV software. And finally, also you get more keys on the remote control. So you can really take over much more from the TV itself. So can even substitute some of the TV UIs, like, for example, EPGs, which is, by the way, one of the favorite features. So as an example here, one of the really favorite branding is EPG. So just showing here from the left to the right, the original Panasonic EPG. And yeah, in the middle, then the implementation from HD Plus, for example, and on the right-hand side from Zattoo. So there's always different style. And yeah, the good thing here is that also in case of questions to the service hotline, if somebody has some trouble or would like to know something from the operator, you have the completely consistent look and feel. You can always refer to your own EPG or whatever is part of your OpApp of your whole virtual set-top box finally. So this means by pressing the guide button, you have this 3 different OpApps. So you can call the EPG button by pressing the guide button slowly. You can get either the Panasonic EPG, or if you have installed the accordingly OpApps, then the corresponding OpApp EPG. This means you have taken over already with this simple task quite more than just the color button and the navigation bars on remote control. Well, and why is an OpApp attractive for manufacturers, you might ask? Because yeah, the operators are taking over the parts of the UI substitute UIs, take over parts of the remote control. Well, it's easily enabled new business fields, like we have seen IPTV for smart TVs. This means the Zattoo application is a full-featured, full IPTV solution. So it's a new business field for a manufacturer. There's a chance for hybrid solutions that are serving broadcast and broadband. There's also new possibilities for pay TV and subscription services without any additional hardware. This means also it's more attractive. The TV overall is getting more attractive for an end consumer, and an OpApp enabled TV simply is more attractive in terms of a marketing argument. And as already said, manufacturers are very user-focused. This means attractivity, device attractivity is important as a manufacturer. And for a user, clearly the single remote control is one of the killer features, because people would like to have a clean-looking living room. If you, for example, look at the living room at the picture there, there's no set-top box, nothing. And this is usually preferred by users. There's easy installation, perfect integration, no additional hardware, no problems with wiring. This is really a very much honored feature from consumer. Yeah, coming to some words from practice, some questions from practice also. One of the questions I heard quite often is HbbTV OpApp and the normal HbbTV. Does this work together? Or if I have installed an OpApp, is HbbTV not working anymore? Of course it is, simply because HbbTV OpApp is really running in parallel. So you can see already here, it's a very powerful application. It's part of, it became some kind of part of the TV system. So it's running in parallel. And in the example of HD+, you can, of course, assess, let's say, from a running ZDF TV service, also assess the ordinary HbbTV service. So the OpApp standard does allow this, so it's not excluding. Next charming thing here is also many people think about HbbTV as something that is always related directly to broadcast, something coming from satellite or cable or terrestrial and is complementing. No, it can completely substitute, is something really completely independent from broadcast. And we have seen Zattoo as a very perfect example on this, because you can completely run a complete IPTV service, completely fully broadcast independent. Not even a tuner would be needed in the TV. So no cable, no terrestrial, nothing. And well, there could be very charming applications. Like, for example, if your Wi-Fi is strong enough, you can put your TV down in the garden, and you can then really just, so I can also show this here. I have also a pointer. So I can really put a TV in the garden. So it's not my garden. This is just an artificial picture. Place your TV in the garden, bring it with you then out there, and have really a very, very nice TV viewing experience also in the garden if your Wi-Fi is strong enough. So that's very fine, and by the way, very new and attractive use case. Then also we heard about virtual set-top boxes and that it's comparable to set-top boxes connected with an HDMI cable traditionally. So on the right-hand side, we see the different set-top boxes for IPTV, cable, STB, and so on. And on the right-hand side, we somehow would like to switch between the different OpApps, just as if there would be connected set-top boxes. Well, now I'll show you the Panasonic way of switching the applications. On the Panasonic remote control, we have the so-called TV button in the upper part. And when we on a normal TV without any installed OpApps press the TV button, we can toggle between terrestrial or cable, satellite, and well, IPTV is not existing because IPTV, there is nothing there yet. But when I, for example, install an OpApp, like here, in this case, for example, Zattoo, then also IPTV is available. I can still toggle between terrestrial, cable, or the, in this case, IPTV OpApp, like it would be on an HDMI 1, 2, or 3. And moreover, in the Panasonic solution, I can put some corresponding apps on the corresponding layer. Means I can also, for example, in case of satellite, replace it with HD+, or in terrestrial case, I can replace it with Xumo, and I can then toggle through the operator apps just as if the TV would be directly connected to a tuner. So also we can perfectly have here a very good and perfect consumer-friendly integration. Now, also, how does the OpApp come into the TV? We have heard quite detailed and saw the installation process. Also quickly here from Zattoo, how this finally works. Well, we have heard that there are two ways on installing the OpApp. One way is really installing it right from the beginning. This means I buy my TV, get it shipped, set up my Wi-Fi, and then during the installation process here, I start and select, in this case, for example, the Zattoo OpApp by clicking on IPTV, and then select Zattoo, install the OpApp, and then you are done. So it's really just 4 simple steps that the consumer can say, oh yes, this is a great feature. No complicated things during the setup, very easy to handle. The second way that Pavel already mentioned is somehow later. Means I find the OpApp either directly in the home panel, or I find it in the app lists. And then again, I just select my OpApp, the same installation process, and I'm done. So very, very easy, either at the beginning or later on, if the consumer just hears about Zattoo or is just discovering the app market and would be interested in, for example, installing Zattoo, no problem at all. Okay. Well, there are quite a lot of operator features, and now we have seen, so these OpApps are quite powerful, and so these OpApps are meanwhile getting increased popularity. So meanwhile, so the process of OpApp has started in spring 2019. This is when the OpApp, the first OpApp standard has been released, and already in spring 2019, the first OpApp was released, which was in cooperation with HD+. Meanwhile, there are a number of OpApps out in the market, and the latest development is currently really the stunning Zattoo OpApp, which is really a great installation, a great presentation of what is possible with IPTV and operator application. And we wonder who is next. I can assure you there's more in the pipe, but of course I can't tell you now, because this also depends on partnership. We have seen here that OpApp is something where operators and manufacturers are coming closer together, that there's a cooperation really necessary and makes absolutely perfect sense here, because it's something where you have a resident application that starts from the beginning, that you take over lots of controls from the TVs. You can use guide buttons, recording buttons, whatever. You can substitute parts of the UI. So a partnership here is something that is really important. And well, so the main advantages of such a partnership is really that to have really a stronger cooperation together. You can really make sure that it works as intended. So it's not just launching an app. It's not just fire and forget, like, for example, a normal HbbTV application where you would say, okay, I test something and we hope it somehow works with the market. No, with a partnership, you really can be assured that everything works as intended because you are collaborating with your partner. And finally, you are stronger together because you can not figure only out technical issues. You can optimize your OpApp. You can also commercially do a lot of things together. You can do joint marketing. You can do cross promotion. So it also has not some very nice and proving technical aspects, but also some very good commercial aspects, this kind of partnership. Okay, so that's it a bit from my side. Now wrapping up a bit. Yeah, here the win-win for all, for the consumer, for the operator, for the TV manufacturer. And I think a certain highlight is here really the consumer, because everything we do here as HbbTV Association, but also as manufacturers and as operator developers is finally with the focus on the user. User satisfaction is, or consumer satisfaction is very much the key here. And yeah, coming to the end. Thank you for listening to my presentation. And now I would like to hand over to Jörn.
Yes, thank you, Martin, and the other presenters for your great presentations and the information you've given. There have been a lot of questions. You can see them here on the screen, and this is not the only screen we have. So let's see which ones we can handle. There's not too much time left. I think one very important issue refers to the question whether HbbTV OpApps still allow other normal, standard, regular HbbTV apps to be run in that system. Who would like, Martin?
Yes, I think I explained this, and I mentioned also during my presentation. So this is really one of the questions that I heard quite a lot, and therefore I implemented it in the presentation. Yes, it does work. So I showed the in the example that yes, of course, simply this is because HbbTV OpApp is running in parallel. Like a piece of TV software, and therefore if it's in the system, if the OpApp is developed in a way that HbbTV is possible, then yes.
I think this is important to know that the OpApp doesn't, as a super app, suppress the other apps. They're still running, so you still have all the freedom of choice as you would normally have without an OpApp. Next question regarding TA, targeted advertising. There's the HbbTV TA specification. Can that be implemented with OpApps? Who would like to respond? Teun, perhaps.
That's a nice question. As it hasn't been done so far, as I'm aware of, but I don't see a reason why not. And I think it ties in with the previous question that operator apps are designed to function together with regular HbbTV apps. So I don't know all the details of the targeted advertising implementation, but I think it builds on the same kind of framework. So I would say in principle it could work.
It probably makes sense that it's possible. I'll stay with you, Teun. Is an upgrade from the current version of the OpApp to version 2 possible on the TV set? Because you mentioned the version 2.
Yeah, I would think so. This, of course, hasn't been done as well, so it should be tested. But in principle, the worst case that you would have to do is uninstall the OpApp, which is part of the specification, and install a new one. But again, in principle, this should not be an issue.
Okay, the next one I think we already addressed based on the feedback Zattoo received from their customer service with the OpApp, that there weren't any major issues, any major problems. And obviously the OpApp is not just available, because we come to that later in the questions, on Panasonic TV sets, or not, let's put it this way, OpApps aren't just generally available on Panasonic TV sets. A number of other manufacturers enable OpApps as well. We come to that later. But unless you want to add something, I think there aren't any major issues regarding the consumers.
No, simply because OpApp is a standard, is an ETSI standard, so everybody is free to implement. So there are, of course, more manufacturers who are supporting OpApp, and of course, yeah, every manufacturer is invited also to join the OpApp world, and to also upgrade the devices if they like. So it's
exactly
up to everybody.
Like with HbbTV in general, it's an open standard and anyone can use it. That's one of the benefits. So it runs across multiple systems, across different hardware from different manufacturers. You don't have to develop something specifically for a proprietary platform. Now, regarding the TV reception, there is a question: do you need to receive your standard TV channels on broadcast TV? DVB broadcast TV, or does it even work when it's in just using just OTT streaming?
Well, I think this is probably also a question that I've clarified already in my presentation. At least I hope so. No, so OpApp can do both. There could be something pure IP, where Zattoo is a perfect example for a pure IPTV solution. And this was also the reason why I picked HD Plus as the perfect solution for a broadcast solution. So it's totally up to the operator. You are free to develop whatever you want, if it's broadcast related or pure IP, whatever you like. So it's up to you.
I think we stay with you, Martin, and I'll summarize the last question on this page a bit differently. Can there be several OpApps running on a TV set system in parallel, and you just, tune into them like you would on an HDMI overview?
Yes, that's
tricky.
Also
can we have
a question
that
I showed in my presentation. So switching between the different OpApps, like if there would be different set-top boxes connected to the TV set. And I would really like to point out that yes, there are exactly these features are really so amazing to HbbTV OpApp. So there's really a lot of features. So it does not forbid anything. It moreover enables a lot of opportunities for manufacturers as well as for operators, and finally for the end consumer. What I would like to point out, because finally it's all about the consumer, and so for all these features are so convenient also for consumers, that I think especially these things are very important. Maybe one last word to OpApps as a whole. You can also very easily try a new service. This means also for somebody who would like to try for a new service, it's much easier to develop an OpApp and deploy it to the market and see if a new service is probably attractive, rather than starting with some kind of hardware business and then finally identify that you might fail with your business or need to adjust your business.
Okay.
I would have one.
Yeah, please.
Sorry, one remark on the question on the other slide, because someone asked if you could change the HDMI order. Actually, your app would be showing up on these virtual inputs with the name of your app. So there is no order anymore. So you actually see, instead of HDMI 1, you would in our case see Zattoo. So order is not what the user is navigating on when he picks those sources. And that's a very, very nice feature.
As we were saying, the OpApp is like a virtual set-top box, so it gets kind of connected into the system like you would switch to a regular set-top box through HDMI. Now we have the second slide. I think we're running out of time, so we'll just address perhaps the first and the last question on this. Over to you, Martin, again. Is there a business model between Zattoo and Panasonic to enable the OpApp, or of course between HD Plus and Panasonic as well? And how have you arranged this collaboration? Because obviously it's all about agreements that do need to be in place for this to run.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned this partnership. That's true. Yeah, so usually there should be then a partnership. There should then be, or there is usually an agreement between a TV manufacturer or a device manufacturer and an operator, an OpApp developer, which has, as I explained, certain also benefits here. If you're interested in this and would like to know more about Panasonic, just to make it short, simply contact us. So simply drop me a line, and no problem about that.
A question to Rachel and Pavel, perhaps, how long or complex is this process to work out such a deal with the manufacturer? Because you've gone through that.
Well, for us, it was pretty quick. We also got a lot of support from Panasonic, from everyone involved. Of course, in our case, the details of this partnership were dealt out with our business development department. So I don't know the details, but of course, there is a part of a rev share business model that we're setting up, which you have with all of the smart TV vendors. So that's sort of a given. But it was not. I cannot imagine it to be like especially dragging and long. It was pretty straightforward. So
I mean, it offers additional value to
couple of weeks.
So I don't think why would you install additional hurdles for that if you want to do that for the benefit of the consumer, because that's what it's there for in the end. The last question on this slide, do you see the OpApp as a replacement of the set-top box? Because that's a tough job, our viewer adds, or is that more like a complementary solution?
Well, in our case, for Zattoo, as a B2C brand, of course, we're not looking too deep into set-top boxes. But as we're a TV platform, if you haven't known that, good place to start talking about that. So for our customers, for our tenants on the platform, this is very important to have all the options. So depending on their business model and their strategy to be in the market, they could choose either or both. So for us, for Zattoo, as our own brand, it's perfectly natural that we would go that way to have the best experience. But it would, for us, not replace anything. It would always be an addition. For our customers, I cannot say what the strategy would be.
Yeah. I'll stay with you, Rachel, regarding the commercial strategies. Does the OpApp only contain free streams, because you have free streaming as the Zattoo as we know it, or does it include your encrypted pay TV services?
Not the classical encrypted pay TV services as you would know from a broadcaster, but you could have the full range of subscriptions with Zattoo also on the Operator app. So you could use the Operator app with the free service, which has additional ads and less channels and different quality, and then you could just up or upgrade that subscription to any of the other models that we offer, and you can use it with the same app. So it's just that the account defines how the app would look like and what it offers. So
is there, because the first question addresses security, is that then DRM solution included?
Yes.
DRM protection. Okay. One question for the companion screens, perhaps to Martin. Is it possible to launch the OpApp for a companion screen? And can you, at Zattoo, perhaps imagine to implement this feature in the future?
Companion screen.
That's smart.
OpApp is launched directly at the boot. So I don't know exactly where's this question. So usually an OpApp is launched directly when you launch the TV. So
Yeah.
this means it makes no sense to launch it from a second screen. So I don't.
Maybe it's more referring to the option to connect it to a tablet or smartphone to, save you time from typing in certain things.
Such features are really up to the OpApp developers. So whatever you want.
So it's possible from the specification.
The question would be if you can then enter something via your phone onto the Panasonic TV, which is usually a platform feature. I don't know, Martin, if you want to, because I don't know about Panasonic offering that in general, like having.
I must say I also don't know how and how we would support this. I would also need to double check this. But there would be certain ways to do this, so I would not exclude it from general.
He's nodding his head. So as I understand it, it's probably possible from the specification side. It just needs to be implemented. We
discussed it before and I think you might need something on top, but so I don't know the details. But I think it can be done. And it might even become more relevant. We're looking into augmented reality TV. So suppose you want to start it from your AR glass. So who knows?
I think the important message here is if you would like to have such kind of features, simply talk to the device manufacturers where you would like to launch an OpApp on, and
and of
in
course,
our case, simply talk to us, and I'm pretty sure we'll find a solution.
Of course, join the HbbTV Association if you're interested in developing specifications. Deploying innovations, kickstarting certain new developments that you might need. Become a member, join the working groups, different working groups, and then you can get involved yourself in developing these standards and specifications. The last question is: the Zattoo app only available on Panasonic TV sets, or do you plan to roll it out on others?
Well, currently the Zattoo OpApp is only on Panasonics. So there are other vendors, as we've learned earlier. So Vestel has set up something or starting with it. And I think also Samsung has something in place, but we have not gotten down that path. But it's not that we couldn't. So it's not that we're exclusive to Panasonic. We haven't sold our soul to them. That was not necessary.
One who's the first, but then we'll see.
Also, in addition to the other contract question, so you do not have to sell your soul to Panasonic.
That is a good statement in the end, and I think that's where we'll leave the Q&A part now. Thank you very much for the many questions we have received. These are not all of them. There were lots more, but 3 pages is just too much to handle. But I'm sure there'll be more opportunities coming up in the further parts of this webinar series to address specific questions. As you can see here, we have next coming up once again teaming up HbbTV with DVB for a 2-part mini webinar series on targeted advertising on broadcast television. There are 2 parts. You can see the dates and times here. You will receive links to register for that, along with the link to the YouTube recording of this webinar and the PDF download opportunity for the presentations 24 hours after this webinar. So that'll be tomorrow afternoon if you're in European time zone. Thank you very much for being with us today. Sorry for overrunning a bit. Thanks to the presenters. Thank you to you for tuning in live. And if you're watching this on YouTube, thanks for your interest as well. The HbbTV Association is open for your suggestions regarding further topics of this webinar series, and is also available on Twitter and LinkedIn for the latest updates and also information on the next editions of the webinar series. Thank you very much. Take care. Stay well. See you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.